Students are always surprising me, and even though I think my expectations are high, and my expectations keep going up every year I've taught, students are always teaching me that my expectations aren't high enough. The last year I was in the classroom, before this year, I had a student who I really had trouble connecting with. He was rather defiant, Jesse, not very personable with too many kids, always on the defensive and just totally resistant to doing anything academically. I found out through his journals that he's a musician and is a really accomplished drummer. And in conferences with his mom, found out that's all he wanted to do, was go to the garage and practice with his band. And they were pretty good. So I kept thinking, well, what would I do with a kid like this? I'll try to connect him with like biography of Jimi Hendrix or Morrison or somebody, another musician, and he resisted that. And as part of this banquet of books and kids talking about books that they really enjoyed, I had a copy of Pat Munoz Ryan's, isn't she the one who wrote Esmeralda Rising and Esperanza Rising. And I told him one day when I just had it to hear with him resisting, I said, read this book and you are not leaving my classroom today until you've gotten through at least 20 or 30 pages of this book. But I've got to go to algebra. No, I don't care. I called all his teachers and said, he's staying in my room the rest of the day until he reads. And he started reading this book and fell in love with it. I mean, it's a wonderful book, but to me it was always a girl's book. You know, it's just sweet. It's so sweet. And this kid loved this book so much that when he finished it and then kept it so that he could read it again, I couldn't believe it. And on my wall in my office here, and I packed up this special picture, and on my phone I carry it around with me, I have a picture of this kid with Jesse, with the goofiest smile on his face, with the first book that he ever read, Esperanza Rising. So it's like, I can never really pick for them. They have to pick for themselves. I have another story about one of my favorite books to teach is called Always Running, Mi Vida Loca, My Days in the Gang Life by Luis Rodriguez. He was a gangster in East LA, brutal gang. His mother was so frustrated with him, she kicked him out of the house and made him live in the garage. Because of the things he was involved in, he was out of control. He ended up having so many kids die, so many of his friends die from gang violence, that he went to Chicago. He tried to quit the gang put out a contract on him, so he fled to Chicago with some other family. And it's a novel of hope, because he got out of the gang, and he's a famous author, and he owns a bookstore in Los Angeles. So of course I was giving this book to some of my little gangsters, and they loved it. And then this one kid, very, very straight, good kid, picked up the book and read it, and his journal said, I know this book is about gangsters, and I'm a Christian. I go to church all the time, and I try to do what God instructs me to do. I found this book particularly interesting because of the life he lived by his own choice, didn't follow any of the rules that I've learned as a Christian. And it's convinced me even more that I need to follow the ways that my church teaches me so that I don't fall into these same traps.